there was more Twitter files, and there. What's more mind blowing than the Twitter files revealing the government censorship through social media and the collusion between the intelligence community and social media apps. What's even more shocking than that is the way people are being propagandized to ignore it. It's unbelievable.
It's a big nothing burger.
It's a big nothing burger. Oh, he's just cherry picking, and it's like, what is wrong with you? I know what's wrong with them. They're propagandized because the establishment, they want to censor. The people who vote for Democrats, I'm telling you, they enjoy censorship because they think they're censoring their enemies. That's why. They think they're censoring Trumpers and MAGA. That's who they think they're censoring. But in reality, they're censoring anybody who's against the establishment. Anybody who has a counter narrative to the establishment, no matter how many awards you've won as a scientist, or no matter if you're the leading cardiologist in the country, no matter if you invented the mRNA vaccine technology, you will be censored if you step outside the cult. And now people are ingesting this. People are not fighting back against this, and it's becoming part of their mentality. People who vote Democrat, I mean, it's a cult. It is, I know we've said it, it's not hyperbole. It is exact cult thinking.
I think we all owe Scientology an apology.
I think we all do.
Is what this is telling me.
No kidding.
They were never this rough.
So let's get to this story. So I don't want to bury the lead. So it's come out now that they were censoring true stories about COVID that they knew, true facts about COVID, that they knew they were true. Why? Because it might make people vaccine hesitant, and then everybody wouldn't make enough money. It's exactly what this is about. It's about corruption and money and criminals, and the government colluding with criminals to silence people telling you the truth about criminals. So Twitter files, number 19, the great COVID-19 lie machine, Stanford, the Virality Project. Virality? How do you say
Virality?
that? Virality?
Yeah.
The virality and the censorship of true stories. So I'm going to explain to you how this is the government doing it in a second, but I don't want to bury the lead. So there it is. And here's a great one. In one remarkable email, so this is the government. If you see Virality Project, that's the government. That's the United States government. It recommends that multiple platforms take action even against stories of true vaccine side effects and true posts which could fuel hesitancy. None of the leaders of this effort to police COVID speech are health experts.
They're probably marketing experts. Why would they go to health experts for
That's
this?
right. So this really happened. So here, I'll read this to you, and then I'll set it up until I just want to bury. They're censoring true stories because the truth. So they're going to call you a conspiracy theorist. They're going to call you a nut. They're going to flag your post. They're going to censor your post for saying something that's true because it might affect the bottom line of a corporation. It might cost them some money. Not that you're lying, not that it's not true. It just might hurt them. And what they say is it might make people vaccine hesitant.
You might stumble your brother from the one true faith.
And the only bad thing about being vaccine hesitant, turns out, the only bad thing is that they don't get to profit. That's really the only bad thing. So true content. So this is what they want to censor. True content which might promote vaccine hesitancy or stories of true vaccine side effects, true post which could fuel hesitancy. So that's what they're doing. So this isn't about getting rid of crazy people who are spreading conspiracy theories. This is about true stories that is going to cut into the profit margin of Pfizer and Moderna. That's what this is about. It's all about money. Your government is 100% corrupted. Your COVID policy was run on corruption. Your mandates that my friend Graham came on the show and advocated for were being pushed by criminals who were lying to him, and he ingested that lie and then repeated it. Uncritically, unskeptically. Everybody did, not just him. I did it up until I got vaccine injured. And then as soon as I looked into COVID, everything I looked into, they were lying about. They were lying about transmission. They were lying about natural immunity. They were lying about herd immunity. They were lying about side effects. They were lying about masks. They were lying about lockdowns. There was a plan to handle pandemics. They didn't follow it. They did everything to make you take vaccines. The lockdowns were used to make you take vaccines. They admitted it. So let's back it up. So you remember when they had the U.S. Disinformation Governance Board and this mental case, Nina Jankowicz was going to be the head of it? Remember that?
The real lantern-jawed gal.
Yeah, remember the video surfaced of her singing about how much she loves censorship? Remember that?
Just a spoonful of censorship.
It's a spoonful of censorship. And she's a legit mental case, but she gets to call herself a disinformation expert. And you know how you get to be a disinformation expert? You just write it down in your bio. That's it. That's how you become one. That's it. I'm a disinformation expert and a queer. So when they got rid of this, then the United States government started funding a thing called the EID over at Stanford. And here it is. They're going to tell you. So now when they got rid of this, because nobody wanted the government doing this, nobody, except some people who vote Democrat.
She is taking donations now for her next.
Is she?
Her next project.
So when they got rid of that, when they got rid of this, her and this they still had to censor you, and so they shifted over to Stanford in this thing called EIP, election integrity something. Let me see here. But here's they're going to admit that they're doing it. Watch.
Because of the feedback and the ideas from this group, we were able to pull together pretty quickly a project between these 4 different institutions to try to fill the gap of the things that the government could not do themselves.
They were going to fill the gap of the censoring that the government couldn't do themselves, except they are the government because they're being funded by the U.S. government. So they're not an NGO. I mean, they are, but they're being funded by the government.
Is that the old flow chart from before they legalized torture that they had to use to fill the gap?
And here they are. Can you look up what the EIP? It's
Election Integrity Partnership.
Election Integrity Partnership.
What?
Yeah. So this is this is now going over to Stanford, the EIP, Election Integrity Partnership, and there's government, civil society, platforms, and media. Look at that.
Why are they handling COVID information?
Because the government, it works for Big Pharma, Kurt.
No, I mean, why is the election integrity thing covering?
Oh, this was about elections. Watch this. So watch but then it shifted into COVID.
Oh, good.
So as soon as they got rid of her and that, because everybody freaked out about the government doing disinformation governance board.
Mm-hmm.
Can you sound more Orwellian? So then they pushed it over to the EIP, Election Integrity. What is it?
Partnership.
Partnership. And so then they start bragging. By the way, so it's a coalition of entities. And Kurt,
it's on the next one, I think.
So here we go.
The Election Integrity Partnership ended data collection on November 19th, 2020. And during that time, the partnership processed 639 tickets on election-related mis and disinformation, of which 72% were related to delegitimizing the election results.
Delegitimize. So anybody who questions election results or integrity is immediately flagged as misinformation. That's what they're admitting right there. That's it. You're not allowed to have that opinion.
Tech platform partners, Twitter, Google, Facebook, and TikTok, responded directly to 75% or more of the tickets in which they were tagged, a testament to both the high quality of reporting and the value of constructive relationships with the.
Wow.
So she's bragging that the stuff that they flagged, 75% of it, they took down.
Yeah. Now people, and you know the best part? People now trust the government more than ever. They're doing great.
Platforms. And although EIP did not make specific enforcement recommendations, because those are the platforms to determine in accordance with its policies, 35% of the URLs flagged were actioned under remove, reduce, or inform policies, again, helping contextualize for the public the content that they were seeing.
So they're going to help you because you're too dumb to put into context what information is, and you're going to have assholes like that do it for you. So that's who's going to. This is who's going to do it for you. That's the kind of person who's going to decide what you're able to handle. That's it. Like, oh, we can't let regular people read this. It would break their brains. Well, how come it didn't break yours? Well, I'm special. I can read misinformation and it doesn't affect me, but we have to keep it from people it affects. That's not what's happening.
Well,
what's happening is they're keeping accurate information from you because they work for the oligarchy. And the oligarchy right now wants to make $100 or $200 billion off of selling vaccines. And go ahead.
Well, so now like your Bill Maher kind of liberal, they transposed all the radical Islam suicidal maniac that we got to blow. They managed to put that onto half of the people that live here. So that's why, because this sounds like the exact way they talked when they were like renditioning people, that same bland, like corporate.
Yes.
I've never heard anybody talk like that where it wasn't the most evil thing.
They're talking about, it's the banality of evil, Kurt. They're talking about censoring Americans' free speech. And they're doing it in some. This is how this is how spreadsheet, and this is how it works.
Like she could be in Germany in the 30s talking about how they contextualized the Jews.
35% of the Jews that we recommended were eventually taken down. So this is what. So now it's turned into this. So that was EIP, Election Integrity Partners, has now morphed into this.
It's metastasized,
and it's called the virality. It's called the Virality Project. From Stanford, the makers of that big list of words you can't say. Remember when we covered that? They came out with a list of words
I've already forgotten with the words on it.
Me too, but they're any word bait pretty much. So they actually have a Twitter account, and it says a coalition of research entities focused on detecting and mitigating the impact of false and misleading narratives related to COVID-19 vaccines. Well, if there's one group I trust to decide what information I can read, it's a coalition of research entities. And and they're being funded by the government at Stanford, and it's called the Virality Project, and they're there to censor you.
Isn't that what Aleister Crowley contacted in that pyramid? A coalition of research entities?
I don't know who's what?
Yeah, you never heard of him, Aleister Crowley?
No. Okay. So here it is. That's the report. It's from the Virality Project. Memes, magnets, and microchips. What? That's their big report.
Nice corporate art too behind it.
Yeah. By the way, it's not since. So here, look at this. So after the 2020 election, when EIP was renamed the Virality Project, the Stanford lab was onboarded to Twitter's JIRA ticketing system, absorbing the government proxy into Twitter infrastructure with the capability of taking in an incredible 50 million tweets a day. Not since MK Ultra have we witnessed such synergy between universities and intelligence agencies. Am I right?
This is really like amazing work, guys.
So 50 million tweets a day, the Virality Project. Okay. So now you get see. So and then here it is. Here's in one remarkable email. There it is. They said get rid of true stories about COVID. And then he writes, Matt Taibbi writes, it's crucial to reiterate EIP was partnered with state entities like CISA and GEC. Now, CISA stands for Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. That's what CISA, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. That's a government agency. Okay, so they're partnered with a government agency and getting government money. Okay, and they're also with the GEC, which is the Global Engagement Center. That's inside the Department of State. Okay, while seeking elimination of millions of tweets in the Twitter files, Twitter execs did not distinguish between organizations using phrases like "according to CISA," "escalated via EIP." So the point he's making is that they didn't make a discern between the EIP, which is supposed to not be a government organ and governmental organizations. They just as one entity. That's how they referred to them at Twitter. And so here it is. There's their pinned tweet. They haven't tweeted since like last February. This virality project. New report. High harm misinformation isn't going away and must be met with a collective response. Today, Virality Project releases memes, magnets, and microchips, diving into narratives, actors, and tactics that shaped COVID-19 vaccine conversation in 2021. And the irony is they're the liars. That they're the government liars.
They don't tweet anymore,
and they stopped
burned
tweeting
out like Ebola. Like they're gone too quick.
Matt Taibbi says, we came to think of this grouping, state agencies like DHS, FBI, and the Global Engagement Center, along with NGOs that aren't academic, and an unexpectedly aggressive partner, commercial news media. So all these were working together. The DHS, the FBI, the GEC, and non-academic NGOs, and the corporate news media.
That's the military-industrial complex, actually. Those are all part of that.
And he calls them the censorship industrial complex.
I guess it's like Lucasfilm is to Disney. It's like a subdivision.
Oh, okay. And so we're going to talk more about that on Friday with Aaron Matze, the censorship industrial complex. That's a great term that they coined. I think it's great. I'll just show you a couple more things real fast. They were worried about Anthony Fauci's reputation. So remember when they released Anthony Fauci's emails and it proved him to be a big liar about a lot of things?
I chose not to read them because I didn't know if they came from Russia.
Yeah, maybe Russia got them.
I don't want to know information unless the right people tell me.
And so here they are worrying about Dr. Fauci's reputation. We want to see it? Here, I'll read it to you. It says, so when they released these emails, they were upset that people were talking about him on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it says, the emails via the Freedom of Information Act has been used to exacerbate distrust in Dr. Fauci and in U.S. public health institutions.
Wait,
as it should.
Wait, he wasn't hacked? It was a legal freedom of information?
Yes.
Wow.
But they don't want people talking about it. It goes, discussion of Fauci's emails also spread in Chinese on Telegram. And then down here, these networks are keen to foment increased distrust in Fauci's expert guidance and in America's public health officials and institutions. Yeah, you know why? Because they don't deserve our trust. They deserve our distrust, as those emails revealed. But they don't. This is exactly what always happens. Can you, again, someone else said this, but can you ever imagine a time in history when the people doing the censoring were the good guys? Can you ever point to a time in history when the people doing the censoring turned out to be the people on the right side of history? No, you can't.
And that the right side of history is these people's heaven.
That's right. And here they are. And here they are. This is all about censoring accurate information. This is about narrative control, because if you can't do this, then you have to start disappearing people. And if you have to start disappearing people, that's a lot harder than doing this. And they can do this right out in the open. And now half the country doesn't give a shit because they've been propagandized into thinking this is some kind of hit job on Democrats instead of what it actually is. An expose into really, you live in an authoritarian nightmare of a country that is run in the interest of corporations and big pharma, people pushing experimental medical treatments on you and then shutting up anybody who criticizes them. And you want to say something?
Well, let's say I got caught cheating on my girlfriend because of a freedom of information request. That could foment increased distrust in me not cheating on my girlfriend. So it has to be suppressed. It has to be intercepted by someone.
It must be suppressed. So I'll go a little bit more. Reports of vaccinated individuals contracting COVID-19 anyway, natural immunity, and suggesting COVID-19 leaked from a lab, even worrisome jokes. This is what was being censored.
Worrisome jokes.
Worrisome. Do you think I'm kidding? You think I'm kidding? So here it says, this week's top post from a recurring anti-vax influencer on Twitter is by Alex Berenson. They call him anti-vax. Now that guy
sued.
The guy sued Twitter and won for them censoring him because what he was doing was giving accurate information. And as I'm showing you, they don't care if it's accurate. They care what Big Pharma wants them to do. And so they pretend that this guy, Alex Berenson, is some kind of anti-vaxxer. Instead of what he is a reporter who's showing that you guys are lying. So they just call him an anti-vaxxer. So if you tell a truth that Big Pharma doesn't like about vaccines, you're called an anti-vaxxer.
A bunch of regular people also know this because they know somebody who something happened to and they said, shut up and don't talk about it.
Yes.
Know? So it's just like, we're just not thinking about that.
Here it is. 2 incidents illustrate this dynamic. In July 21, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki announced that the Biden administration would begin focusing on door-to-door community-based vaccine outreach. This announcement provoked immediate online outrage, including worrisome jokes.
With violent undertones.
With violent undertones that suggested people should respond to official door knockers with hostility, guns, or harassment.
Oh, so because he announced it, people made jokes.
Yes. People made worrisome jokes.
That's stochastic terrorism.
That is stochastic terrorism. That is exactly right. That is words are violence. This story is important for 2 reasons. One, as Orwellian proof of concept, the Virality Project was a smash success. Government, academia, and oligopoly of would-be corporate competitors organized quickly behind a secret, unified effort to control political messaging. 2, it accelerated the evolution of digital censorship, moving it from judging truth and untruth to a new, scarier model, openly focused on political narrative at the expense of fact. So whatever the political narrative was, that was more important than if it was true or not. It's called propaganda.
Hey, if you don't like China, remember you are China.
In one email, the Twitter VP addressed what it called the vaccine passport narrative, saying concerns over such programs have driven a larger anti-vaccination narrative about the loss of rights and freedoms. This was framed as a misinformation event. The fact that people were reporting that vaccine passports are a loss of civil liberties and freedoms, that's considered misinformation on Twitter. Almost always reportable. It encouraged platforms to target people, not posts.
Oh, well,
using Minority Report style pre-crime logic, describing repeat offenders like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It spoke of a large volume of content that is almost always reportable.
I can't believe all the to just make a shit list. Like,
yeah.
You got to have all this preamble to like, we don't like you. We're not talking about what you're saying. We don't, you. That's unbelievable.
VP was repeatedly extravagantly wrong. In one email to Twitter on misinformation, it spoke of wanting to hone in on an increasingly popular narrative about natural immunity.
Doesn't say fake narrative, does it?
But here's what it says. This week we are able to hone in on an ongoing tactics and themes, including an increasing popular narrative around natural immunity. So they're honing in on getting rid of that stupid natural immunity popular narrative. That's what that says. One more. So to recap, America's information mission went from counterterrorism abroad to stopping foreign interference from reaching domestic audiences to 80% domestic content, much of which is true. So that's where we start. That's what I said. You know, they started with Alex Jones, and we're going after Al-Qaeda and terrorism. And now it's former president of the United States. It's the leading scientists in their field. It's the leading doctors in their field. It's the leading journalists in their field. That's where it went. It started there. And of course, that's what it always, and that's what I tried to warn them at the Young Turks about as they were screaming that we need more censorship. And I was like, you know, you guys are you're an online independent news show, And if you ever break a story, they're going to censor you, right? Well, no worries, because they knew they would never break a story.
Well, can I just say thank you to Radical Islamic Terror for knocking off the terror, because we got our hands 80% more full censoring tweets now. That was cool of them.
So now the censorship is 80% of Americans being censored, and a lot of that information is accurate and true. And so, yeah.
Well, I mean, remember that collateral murder video that that was why Julian Assange has to die?
That one, yeah.
Which that was true, but that was a
true.
state secret.
Julian Assange is not in prison for telling lies. He's in prison for telling the truth about the government.
Really, someone told him, like
That's
a journalist, and then he told it.
Yeah, someone gave him some information, and then he published it, which is what journalists do.
And that fomented people in the Middle East who we invaded to hate us.
To hate us. That's what not us killing them.
It really changed their opinion when they saw that.
So we're going to talk more. I mean, I don't want to not talk about this. I want to talk about it more. And so we're going to talk about it more on Friday, about the censorship industrial complex. It should be, and the fact that it's not on the front page of the New York Times, or it doesn't lead the news at MSNBC or CNN, means to most people in the country it's not a story, because the media, owned by the people we're exposing, doesn't want you to think it's a story. And when I say we're exposing, I mean they're exposing. That's what they don't want. They don't want you to think it's a story. And if Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper say it's not a story, then it's not a story.
Oh,
and that's
so what?
that.
Nothing even happened.
Go to jimmydore.com to see my new stand-up special, COVID Lies Are Funny. For only $10, you get to become a premium member too. And come see us do our live shows. We're going to be doing stand-up comedy in Milwaukee, Nashville, Honolulu, Los Angeles, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, New York, Cohoes, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Baltimore, Maryland, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.